3D printed miniatures. Are they any good? Let's find out. 3D printing has been with us a while at this point, and the tabletop gaming industry, tabletop gaming players, have been kind of early adopters of the technology in a lot of ways. Wargamers as well, for building scenery, building miniatures, little spaceships and whatever else. In the same way that the role-playing industry was a fairly early adopter of digital media through the form of PDF, though, rather than ebooks and so on, because PDF's just better for layout and art and all the rest of it that isn't a purely textual presentation. Yet 3D printing promises to be, but isn't yet, a very disruptive technology in the same way that the internet and digital publishing and digital music has been. It just hasn't quite got there yet. And I think that's because the technical bar is still pretty high. I'm not a completely hapless techno weenie. I used to work support. I know my way around Photoshop and things, but CAD software is beyond me. 3D modeling is beyond me. I can make things out of clay, I can make things out of DAS or milliput or any of the other kind of substances, but when it comes to doing it digitally, somehow I just can't do it. I think the last time I touched CAD software was 1990 on an old Macintosh or something at college, and I crashed the computer. So that kind of tells you everything you need to know there. Now, for a while I've been looking at some of these 3D printing options and considering whether to get a home printer or not, but as I say, I'm just not up on the CAD software. I don't know how much use I would get out of it, but there are various services out there that will offer to print a 3D miniature or 3D terrain or a 3D model of whatever it is that you happen to send them, and then to ship it to you. One of the most well-known is Hero Forge, which prints miniatures via Shapeways. So this is a service where you can custom create a miniature in their online program, have it printed out, and then sent to you. So is it any good? I've been looking at this for a while and considered it to be too expensive. And it is an expensive service, but what you're paying for is not necessarily the miniature itself per se, but the customization, the technical expertise, the access to a decent 3D printer, and shipping and packing and all of that. So if you're after a particular singular miniature that you cannot find a close approximation to, then it's a good option. So we just recently finished our 2 long-running campaigns, and the next thing coming up is a short just D&D campaign, maybe a couple of sessions, and a few other bits and pieces before we kick off our Cyberpunk game next year. So I made a character partially inspired by Goblin Slayer, and I went out looking for Goblin Slayer miniatures or knockoff miniatures because I really liked the look of the character, and I couldn't really find anything. So I set out to Hero Forge to try and make a reasonable facsimile of Goblin Slayer that I could then use as my miniature, as my representation in this game. Whether we use battle maps or not, this was a good excuse to use Hero Forge and give me some video fodder for you that I could do a review. Now, their interface is an online one. It's pretty easy to use. You don't need CAD skills or anything unless you want to really get deep into the customization, and really then only of the pose and so on. Otherwise, it's drop-down lists of and examples of various kinds of clothing, headwear, races, heights, waist, bodies, musculature, bust size, booty, all of that kind of stuff is all customizable, but it's all from drop-downs. The combinations are, well, not infinite, but pretty bloody huge. Nearly infinite if you include the fine detail posing that you can do. So you get the option to choose a race. They've got some standard ones there, or you can customize it as you want. They've got a set of heads upon which you can customize the expression. You can add accessories and different hairstyles and all the rest of it. You've got different body types, cybernetic bodies, lizard-like bodies, and so on. And you can adjust the weight and the belly and all the rest of that. You can choose from pre-selected outfits, and there's some unique options there. Or you can pick and choose the clothing individually. You can add gear to your character on their back, on their hips, in their hands, which gives you quite a lot of options. You can have the base be square or round or hexagonal, depending what kind of game mats and so on you happen to use, if any, or your preference. And you can texture them, and you can add things like rats and mice or piles of skulls or whatever else, that you can't find detail where that's placed, so it can be a bit off. You can even put your character on a mount, and you can select from a variety of poses and put it all together. Once you've got a complete design, you can then pick what material it's printed in. Even steel or bronze, the prices there are rather prohibitive. The cost is pretty high, £20 to £30 UK. The shipping, however, is not bad at all. You can judge for yourself whether I succeeded in making the character look that. One thing I did notice while you're doing the design is that on the screen it looks a lot cruder. The parts don't look like they fit together quite as well as you might like. But then when you get the final printed miniature, I think because of the downscaling compared to the screen size, a lot of that worry disappears. I chose the high quality plastic, which was slightly more expensive, and it did come out rather well. You can't see, but I'll put up some photos. The only printing issue I could see is that there is a little bit of flash, that's excess material, on the sword. But compared to metal miniatures that I've bought in the past, or resin miniatures that I've bought in the past, the flash is extremely minimal. And actually on this sword it kind of looks like serrations, so I might well keep them on because I think that looks quite cool. So the print quality, yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, I chose the high quality plastic. I can't speak to the quality of low quality plastic or the other materials, and obviously I've only done one miniature, so I can't speak to the quality of larger scale and so on, which will cost you more. But overall, I'm pretty bloody pleased with it, and because it's all printed as one piece, it feels more solid than you might expect. A lot of miniatures, because you're gluing and pinning, and they don't necessarily fit together quite right. But because this is all printed as one piece, it feels rather solid and complete and substantial for something made out of plastic. And while it is expensive, you have to consider that the cost of creating injection molds and so on for more regular type plastic miniatures, which come on sprues and so on, that's prohibitively expensive, and it's a faff to cut them all out and assemble them. So you get customizability, you get uniqueness, you get solid construction, you avoid all of that, and you get access to technical expertise and decent printers and so on. So yeah, that's what you're paying for. It is pricey, like I say, yeah, 20 to £30 UK for the plastic, but if you're after something unique, or you can't find something out there that suits what you want, or you don't have the customization skills to kit bash miniatures from your bits box or whatever, then this is the way to go. Packaging wise, a single miniature came in a box like this, utterly cocooned in plastic, inflated packing material, and so on. So there was really no chance of it getting damaged unless someone rolled over this in a steamroller or something. So bad for the environment, but good for getting your product in one piece. And this came from the States, but I got it in short order. I think less than a week, actually, maybe bordering on a week. So delivery times are pretty good as well. So that's something to consider into the price, certainly if you're not based in the States. So all things considered, I'm pretty pleased with it. I do think it's on the pricey end. I would like to see the possibility of discounted multiple miniatures. You know, if you put several together in an order, I'd like to see some kind of discount, because one thing this would really be good for, potentially, is custom units for tabletop war games, or customizing particular characters for particular encounters that are quite characterful, where you could customize those, or creating a model for a troop and then modifying the pose so that you've got the same model in different positions for a unit or an encounter or whatever. But other than for single miniatures, I think where you want something unique, where you want something special, where you want something particular, it's cost prohibitive at the moment. But if you don't have the technical expertise, or the time, or the modelling skills, or whatever else, then the Hero Forge is a good option. And if you do have access to a home printer, you can always just download the design that you've made and use your home 3D printer. Overall, I think the only thing really letting it down is the price, and hopefully as 3D printing technology continues to advance, continues to become more accessible in the way that the internet did over time, hopefully those kind of prices will come down, more materials will become available, and things will just all round get better for everybody. Zang.
Now, Bob, consider this next question very carefully. What is your one purpose in life?
To explode, of course.
Make it happen. I can get you anything you want. You just have to talk to me. Talk to me. Talk to me. Talk to me. I'm your priest. I'm your shrink. I'm your main connection to the switchboard of souls. I'm the magic man. The Santa Claus of the subconscious. You say it. You even think it. You can have it.